Good morning to you and welcome. We're reaching you live from our studios at Souq News Television. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. Today is Just Africa, and the program that looks at the big economic and business questions shaping the continent, one country at a time. In every episode, we shine a spotlight on the opportunities, the policy directions, and the power plays affecting growth, investment, and everyday livelihoods across Africa. Today, our focus is on Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and one of its most complex financial environments. Nigeria's central bank has just concluded its Monetary Policy Committee meeting, and the big headline is the monetary policy rate, which has been raised to a staggering 27.5%, or should I say, will maintain the same. But what does it mean for Nigeria's economic direction? How does such a high interest rate influence business, investment decisions, credit access, inflation control, and sectoral development? In a country where small and medium-sized enterprises power much of the economy and where youth unemployment and inflation remain high, we ask, is this the right medicine or just one pressure on an already stretched economy? That is the big question to answer. But let's begin to consider what other directions we will be entertaining this morning. But what does this mean? Does it mean that businesses are overstretched? Does it mean that we are now because the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a bid to tighten the supply of money to the economy, this is the direction they always take, and since time immemorial, we've been towing this path. From their own analysis, from the feedback they've been getting from business doyens and czars of industry, is this the right path for us to go? I bet not. So let's continue the conversation. I'm Oyinpreye once again. This is Just Africa. Welcome. Good morning to you, Olumide.
Good morning, Priye. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good morning. I am Olumide Sokoya.
Yes. So, talking about the business environment in Nigeria, when we have our guests join us on the program today, we will be looking at not just the Monetary Policy Committee meeting that resulted to us retaining the 27.5% for the interest rate. And that's not far-fetched because the Central Bank of Nigeria has been using this strategy a long time. And the last time we spoke to a stockbroker, he said this strategy of the CBN is more like, it's becoming a cliche because we're like, okay, the government or the CBN didn't actually tell the public if Nigeria's inflation is demand push or if it is cost push. If it's not telling Nigerians that way, probably by its own self, it had come to the position where it had determined it and they felt this is the right strategy to take. So, but the thing is curbing the supply of money going to curb inflation? Is curbing the supply, how much money we have in the system going to curb it? Is increasing the rate to borrow from other the commercial banks? Is it going to tighten the supply of money? And if it doesn't tighten the supply of money, do we consider the adverse effect that it will have on businesses? Because Nigeria has been adjudged by business pundits, that it is a terrain where it is quite difficult to do business because you're not getting free power sources. You need to buy fuel or diesel to power your generator to make sure you have power. And by doing that, speaking to some businessmen, they told me that, look, for a month, with the kind of business we run, I could be spending 30 million naira just powering my diesel engine. So if he says he's powering it for 30 million naira, how is he going to recoup that overhead? Then we can start now talking about profit. These are strong questions to answer, even though the recent policy by the Tinubu administration says, with regards to the tax reform, said that businesses that are getting returns that are less than 25 million naira will be exempted from that. However, let's still consider the overhead cost, because if that alone is expended on paying for power, how much are we going to have to pay for staff salaries and all other remuneration that accompanies it?
You know, one day we would have the opportunity of bringing Kadoso to come and answer these numerous questions I remember last 2 years, so many international multinationals left the country, and that did not speak well for even the local business owners and investors in the country, because if the multinationals, I mean big brands that we grew up, knowing are leaving the country, and just like you rightly said, pundits, experts have said about this conducive environment to do business in Nigeria. So my first question, maybe when the guest comes in, is whenever the central bank, whenever they come out with these policies, the FEC and all that, do they get market surveys? Do they do research? Do they do they do research to know whether some of these policies actually work or not? Do they speak to not just big investors, the SMEs, have a meeting with them, roundtable with them? What is going on? How can we come in? Because just like you rightly said, by raising interest rates, how many people would want to do business? How many people would, if you go to banks these days, we've asked so many of our previous guests, how were you able to get loans? How were you able to get capital? And they always tell you that the banks are not always smiling.
The
collateral and everything. So, I also we've spoken to different guests. We've asked about the anchor borrowers policy and all that. It's a whole lot. I have a lot of questions for our guest that hopefully he will be able to answer.
Okay. So, first of all, our focus today is in Nigeria, and we're looking at the capital market, we're looking at stock, and how even Nigerians who are not quite aware, who are oblivious to, whenever they hear the name stock, they're like, okay, it sounds like an esoteric term. It's meant for people in a different class of society. And sometimes having a conversation with Doc off screen, and he starts talking about some Nigerian business doing, owners of industries who are really big players. He said some of them, just by selling a few percentage of their shares in their company, will make 4 billion, 14 billion. And that comes an interest for an investment that he had embarked upon in stock for probably 10 years or 5 years back, and all of a sudden it has grown. So we begin to ask the questions, who are the people that make this kind of mind-boggling profits? Why can't we have one common man from somewhere who can make that kind of profit? And even when you speak to people on the streets and talk to them about stock, and they'll ask you, well, I think that is the preserve of those who live in skyscrapers, who are boardroom experts, who have the intelligence to decode or to be able to read the analysis and to explain the charts where the pendulum may swing. And so it is meant for them, and it is not meant for us. And whenever I hear that, it always bugged my heart to always want to enlighten them, or probably bring a neutral person, like a guest, to come and speak to them about what stock is all about and how they themselves, irrespective of your class, you can make your own income from them. But I remember vividly the other day you were having a conversation with your guest, and you talked about insider trading. Yes, please.
Insider trading. Yes. Now, it's quite interesting how sometimes when I look at insider trading, basically insider trading is if you have certain information. For instance, a company is about to acquire or another company, and it's set to increase in capital and all that, and you have that information, maybe the board of directors or someone inside that company gives you that information. And you buy into that stock. That's insider trading. Now, we have legal and illegal
insider trading.
Yes. You could have that information and report it to the SEC. That makes it legal. Yes, that's legal insider trading. So it's quite interesting why some people actually do this. They engage in this. I remember there was a lady, I'm trying to remember her name. She was indicted for insider trading, a very popular billionaire. She was indicted for insider trading and all that. But just like you rightly said, when people hear stock, they think it's for the elite, it's for that. But and Recently the CBX scam that happened,
Yes.
it was because Nigerians, we like get rich quick schemes. Yes, in stock, there's short term and there's long term, but expert advice for long term. Go for the long term. Short term, that means a day, 2 days, or a month, but it's a whole lot of stress. That means you really have to know the analysis, study the analysis. And all. So we have the long term and the short term investment in stock. But I think we need to start reframing our mind that there is benefit in long-term investment. Even me, we all like put small money.
Yeah,
and
put
by the end of the
small money,
month,
give me big money.
Big
But I
money.
don't think stock works that way.
stock does.
Okay, so let me take your mind to what's currently happening now in Mr. Traore, Ibrahim Traore's country, that's Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso, yes.
And you know, they came in through the gun. They came into the saddle. They took over the reins of power through the gun. But one of the most interesting things I've heard about Burkina Faso is that they are embarking on building the country. We're speaking off camera yesterday, we were talking about the $8.9 million tomato paste factory that is being set up in that country.
Quite brilliant.
Quite brilliant, yes, because the country is known for its agricultural strength. Before now, they've been producing agriculture, they've been involved in agriculture, but the yields, the harvest from tomato, they call it the red gold, it's not been harnessed very well by the country. So, and since it's a perishable good, it falls by the wayside, and they lose lots of basket of that to perish, to spoil. So, but now they're building a factory that can, translate that into tomato paste. And when you look at Nigeria, Aliko Dangote and some other big doings of industry are manufacturing, giving us tomato paste in the country. So when I heard that, I'm saying, okay, when I take another look at it, it goes to banking. The country just established the first state-owned bank. Moving to infrastructure, they are building hospitals. They're building roads that could link and connect every nerve of the city to Abidjan, which is like a border away. So they are not just building the whole country, they are expanding and stretching, creating business entrails to their neighboring countries. And that is going to boost trade in that country. So the reason why I'm giving out this information is because I know Nigerians, we are risk takers. Not just Nigerians, other African countries too. We are risk takers, and we can just, take a flight down to Burkina Faso and invest in because some of these companies that are involved are going to be quoted, and the stock market in that country may just all of a sudden sprung up all of a sudden. And investing at this moment in time where these investments or these companies are sprung out of this new administration, even though it's a military administration, could be, could yield some form of profit to your pocket. Do remember that Just Africa and Souq News Television, we don't just bring you the news about business, economy, and development. We'll also bring you the news on how it can profit your pocket. That's just by the wayside. Yes.
I was going to mention, just like you are rightly, I wouldn't say, I want to use a better word than glorify.
That glorifies taking over the reins of power through the military.
Stock also, the stock market is also determined by a whole lot of things. Political instability is that, and knowing fully well, just like you rightly said, that he took over power, Traore took over power by using the gun. Power might be returned democratically. It might affect stock. So you also, in as much as we would also, I'd like you to invest in that, you also need an analyst to study the market, capital market, study it well. Come rain, come sunshine. And that's one of the things about stockbrokers. You must be ready. You must have a very powerful shock absorber. So that when the rain comes, you just smile. I remember back then.
Even there could be trouble inside, but you're smiling on the outside.
Smile. So that's just it.
Do you see? You wanted to mention a case. You remember someone experienced something during stock, and probably it didn't meet their expectation.
Well, I'm trying to remember that. I can't remember the person.
Okay, I have stories of some persons who have jumped into that, and their stories are not quite palatable. Not just to to bring disaffection or to create a bad impression. No, in business there are risks,
Yes.
and every businessman are risk takers. And we will take the risk of going on a break right now. And when we come back, we will be involved deep into the conversation. We'll bring you the meat of the conversation. Don't go anywhere. It's Just Africa. We're reaching you live from Souq News Television. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. We're reaching you live from our studios at the commercial city of Lagos, Nigeria. Today in Just Africa, we are focusing on the biggest country and the biggest economy in Africa, and that's just truly Nigeria. We have been looking at the stock and the capital market. We have a guest. He's an expert in that field. He joins us live in the studio in Souq News Television. Is Yinka Adeaga. Good morning to you and welcome to Just Africa.
Good morning. Thank you for bringing me in.
Very good.
It's my pleasure.
Very well. So our conversation has been stock market. And before you came on set, we've been telling Nigerians that we don't need to be afraid. Going there, people were making billions of naira. Sometimes you look at the budget or you look at some policies of government. Say the government is released 325 or 500 billion naira for stock exchange and stuff, and you hear things, and I'm like, okay, who is going home with this kind of money? How can I come in and invest? So, as someone who is in that system, first of all, from the onset, how can we give some form of enlightenment, or by way of enlightenment, how can you tell the one who is complete novice about this and how they can, more like introducing someone into the stock market?
All right. Let me quickly correct an impression that the federal government give a budget to the stock exchange or whatever. It's not totally like that.
Okay.
The budget that is given from Ministry of Finance has to do with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Great.
Because they are the ones that regulate the market. So Nigerian Stock Exchange is a self-regulated organization, because that's a platform under which listed equities are traded. So it is SEC that gets the budget. Even the budget they get is not as huge as we think it's like.
The SEC is also the regulator of the stock market.
What?
It's part of the regulators.
Stock Exchange?
Stock Exchange.
Stock Exchange is a self-regulated organization.
All right.
Because they use their platform. That's the platform that every listed company uses for their transaction.
Great.
So now, as a fresher, as a new investor in the market, the question will be, what do you want? How do you want it? When do you want to exit? If you are a fresher in the market, you must have a focus. You must have what you want, where you are going. For instance, some individuals, when they come into the market, what they are after is dividend and increasing their stake. And how do they increase their stake? By way of bonus and right issues. Bonus is when a company declares a bonus from their profitability. For instance, after every year, some companies give dividends, some don't give. Some give every year, year in, year out. Some kind of extend it to say, okay, this year we'll give, next year we may not give. Not that they don't have to give, but because they want to keep some for the purposes of the future. And because there is an agreement between the owners of the company and the shareholders. The shareholders are the owners. So they decide that to say, okay, we made this profit, why not keep part of this profit for future use? We don't want our dividend. It's an agreement. But in a situation where they don't have an agreement, the company have no choice other than to give dividend, except if the company is not making profit. But once they are making profit, the onus lies on them to give dividend no matter how small that dividend may be. Now, a fresher comes in and says, okay, I want to extend my holding, my stake in that company. If a company gives dividends and bonus together, it means that individual is getting additional shares. For instance, if a company decides to say, okay, we are giving 2 for 1, meaning 2 shares for 1 shares ordinarily held.
Okay.
So within that year period. So now it's having 2 addition to that 1 he already had before, making 3. So it means he's kind of increasing his stake. Now the dividend, for instance, if the dividend is 50 kobo and the share price, current share price, maybe it's 10 naira, it means for every share such person is holding, is having a dividend of 50 kobo on it. So by the time you add all that together, it's an increase for such person. Whereas some people will come in and say, all I'm interested in is price appreciation. Meaning that if I buy a stock at 5 naira, I want to grow it to 15 naira before I exit, or I want to grow it to 10 naira before I exit. So such person will keep monitoring to see when it gets to that price level and he or she exits. It's not an easy thing for you to get price appreciation like that because it depends on market. Whatever thing that is happening around the market at that time will determine what price a stock will be. Again, if you are a high net worth individual, meaning you have so much money, you can determine the price of a stock. For instance, if I'm bringing, say, 100 million into the market, and I decide to say, okay, I just want to buy First Bank. I just want to buy a particular stock. And the price is, say, 10 naira. Current market price, 10 naira. And when I'm coming in with 100 million, I'll just tell my broker, look, I can't buy it for 10 naira. I can only buy it for 8 naira or 7 naira. The reason I'm doing that is because I have huge sums of money. And there are people who want to sell at that price. At every given time, there are people who want to sell either high or low. So if I'm able to get, if my broker is able to get somebody who wants to sell at the price I'm offering that I decided to buy, he buys for me. Then I go on like that. But if he doesn't get, my money is still with me, with the broker. Now, he will now tell me, by virtue of what is happening in the market, the likelihood of this price coming down is not there. So what that means is that I'm not the only one that has huge sums of money to want to buy the same stock. It means there are other people who want to buy, and because the demand and supply comes in, whereby there is high demand and the supply is low, the price will go up. But when the demand is low and the price is high, it will remain down. It's a case of demand and supply. So for anybody who wants to buy, you must know what you want to buy, at what price you want to buy it, and when do you want to buy it, so that you know when to exit in case there are crises or problems. We've seen cases where people, because of LC, somebody tells you, oh, I went into the market, I bought the stock for 10 naira, and today the price is 15 naira. You need to ask the person, how long were you in the market for you to determine whether
5 naira profit,
whether there's a profit or not. Because some people will have been in the market for years. Not because they want to be there for years, but because that is the period they are targeting. You know, first and foremost, the market is a long-term market, give or take. So if you are coming in, you either decide to say, okay, I'm going for the long-term end of it, or the short-term end of it, or the medium-term end of it. So if you are going for the long-term end of it, it means you are willing to wait and stay to get the 3 benefits, which is dividend, bonus, and price appreciation.
Dividend, bonus, and price appreciation. Now, we are going to come back to that because I need you to explain those 3 types of benefits.
All right.
But let's go back to the novice again. He wants to come into the market. What are the signs to look out for to say, oh, great, I'm coming in, and these signs give positive outcome that, or positive analysis that I may get a profit?
Okay. First, stability of such company. It is not compulsory that a company make profit year in, year out. What is important is how stable is that company in terms of all the criteria, the profitability, the losses, and the dividends and whatever and then the management of such company. You can see a company having a management that is focused and is market-driven. That what they are looking at is, okay, we have 5 years, we want to make these huge sums of money. And they are working towards it. It's a gradual thing. And they are going like that. They are growing systematically. Now, if you are not careful, if you say, oh, I want to make quick money, you may jump into the wrong hand, into the wrong investment. How? The ones that can give you quick money will be the highly capitalized one. The prices are high. But if you are not careful, those who have larger money will drop the price before you know it. And you just discover that you have invested 1 million, and your 1 million has reduced to, say, 700,000 for 500,000. Simply because they who have huge money know where they're going, know when they want to exit. But you have just 1 million, you are looking at it that, okay, the price changed today. Tomorrow, the likelihood of the price. Let me give an instance. I bought one stock, a particular shares one time. Although that can be said to be an insider's trading.
Okay.
Insider's trading in the sense that I'm a journalist. So I look for information I get. So when I bought it when it was just 3 naira 50 kobo. And I waited. But my target was, once it gets to 10 naira, I'll sell off. Fortunately, the price keep going up. And it got to 15 naira. Good. When it got to 10 naira, I initially wanted to sell. But I had an information, privileged information. Oh, the company is going to do a bonus and what have you. And I said, this is a good time for me to take advantage of that bonus. So I waited. Before I knew it, the price went to 15 naira. And I sold. When it got to 15
from
naira,
3 naira to
3 naira 50 kobo
to 15 naira.
How many years did that?
I think it was just a space of 2-3 years.
2-3 years?
Wow.
Yes. So I sold. When I sold, I didn't sell everything anyway. I sold part of it. The part I sold had given me the money I used, the initial capital that I used in the totality of what I bought. So I'm comfortable.
Yes.
Whether the price crashed or not, I've recovered my money. So that one that is left is the one that is just like what the local
reinvesting Jara. Okay, exactly.
You know, so I just left it like that, and suddenly the price started crashing to the point that it crashed to par. What we mean by par is the price at which it was listed, which was 50 kobo.
It crashed less than 50 kobo.
It crashed to 50 kobo.
To 50 kobo.
Yes. And so I was like, well, I haven't lost anything because at least I've made my initial capital. I've made additional stake.
Okay.
Because they gave a bonus. So that bonus is still part of what I'm making. So the dividend they gave to is there. So if at the end of the day I sell it at 50 kobo, right, I'm still going to make in the region of 10 to 15,000, which is okay with me. So I moved on. And as I speak with you, today, the price of that stock had been hovering between 2 naira to 250.
Oh.
This one is just a recent one because they have diversified into another thing.
Great.
So that information is what is giving some investors to come in. So, but if you don't have information, you can really go into the market. What is key in the market circle is information. And that's why we say you must have an essay. I mean, you must have information that can trigger up whatever thing you are buying or selling.
Yes.
So that is it.
All right. So I'd like to ask you a question. Still on this particular experience of yours. Obviously, the terrain, the economy at that point when you are, first of all, when did you invest first? And secondly, how was the economy? Because, political instability, economic policies and all that, they also affect this stock. So comparing that time till now, would you say, what were the factors that influenced it from going from like 3 naira to 15 naira?
Okay.
And has it changed now?
Well, you see, for every moment, for every period, economy issues affect the markets. Political issues affect the market. Policy affect the market. But how it affects the market differs. For instance, at that time, relatively, there was stability in the economy. And so that was the reason why the price was going up. Not that shares alone, not that company alone. There are other companies whose prices were just going up. Fluctuating up and down. So people sit by and watch what is the information about the market. Not the local market alone, the global market, because these are things that affect every market. Our market, the information in our market may affect the market in New York, in UK. Their own information may also affect us. Why? Because investors are all over the world, and they are doing their businesses in all the markets all over. So you see, if the policy in New York, in US, is not a very good one, you see a shift of investor into Nigeria, especially when they know that now there is security of their investment, and also the fact that, they could make something additional against what is happening in US. So they shift. The same way with UK and other markets. Now, if in their markets it turns around again, they will take their investment there. Because we have international investors who buy and sell from different parts. Now, all those buying and selling from different parts affects every market, because they have interwoven now. They trade amongst themselves. In fact, as we speak, because you may be looking at the currency exchange and what have you, all that has been put aside. Now you can trade, somebody can be in US and trade in Nigeria.
Yes.
And the exchange rate will not have any issue with such person. Not because it shouldn't have, but because at the time he or she wants to buy, the price remains the same here. So not because of, the exchange rate is 1,006 something, and then for that reason, the price in the market is high. No. The market price is determined by the performance of every company and the information available about that company. So as we speak now, there is relative peace in our economy. There is relative peace politically. There is relative peace in the policy. So all these three will push the market up. And that is the reason why you see some prices of stock have been going up. Not because they had performed extremely well or whatever, but because of the environment, which has helped them to say, okay, this price, I looked at it, by next tomorrow, this is what the price will be. So, like somebody did say, it's a game of, it's a place of kalu kalu or whatever. It's not. It's not. That is the way some people see it, but it is not. You can only see it in that form when you have huge money, you just buy this, move to another one. Buy this, move to another one, regardless of whether you have made profit or not. But I doubt if there's anybody who wants to go into the market without making profit.
Yes.
So now, as we speak, some prices are down compared to their performance. So it is better for an investor to take advantage of that now. But in taking advantage of that, you must know why you want to take advantage. You either want to make price appreciation, meaning that the price would have gone from 1 naira to 2 to 3 to 4 naira. You are getting price appreciation. But if you are looking at the dividend, you must be there before the closure of the register of the company. Otherwise, you will not be part of the dividend payout when they want to pay. We are in the third quarter now. Some companies have released their results, full year results. Some have had their AGMs. Some are in the process of filing their full year reports. So all this information will trigger the price of such stock in the marketplace anytime.
Okay.
So for investors, all you needed to know is if a company is performing well, how do they deploy their funds? What are the things they are doing? There are some companies who support the financial inclusivity of the policy of the government.
Yes.
You already know that if that company is existing and on the floor of the exchange, possibility of their price moving up. Because it means that there will be more participants in such company. So you already plan your way around that company. Let's take the financial institution, for instance. Ordinarily, the insurance sector is supposed to be a sector that will be high in terms of price.
Yes.
But they are not. The reason being that they are not doing what they ought to do with the funds available with them. The funds available with them is just kept somewhere. Why? When you insure, you can only pay damages when there are problems.
Okay, problems.
Yes.
When there are no problems, it means that money you have insured is gone.
It's gone.
It's with the insurer. So that is the reason why in developed country, the insurance company are the ones that are making cool money over the banking sector. You know, they are both under financial
institutions.
Sector. So they are better off. But in Nigeria, the case is the other way around. Because there is no enlightenment, because there is no understanding of their workings.
Okay.
For instance, the bank these days, if a bank make a profit, people will say, this bank is big, this bank is that. If they make loss, they will say, they should close it up. Why are you asking for such bank to be closed up when it makes loss? But when it makes profit, you say, it's the best.
Bank. Okay, so let me come in here. Now, we are due for a break, but if you can quickly take care of these questions, let me put it 2 in 1 before we go to the next part of our conversation. That would be nice in just 2 minutes. Okay. The first one is this. You go back to those 3 types of profits that you will, so you can break it down and explain it to Nigerians and other Africans who are watching. Then for those, how can that average man go in? What are the processes that he needs to fulfill to go in? Who does he need to approach and all of that? Yes.
All right. The 3 profits or 3 benefits that I talked about, which is dividends, bonus, and price appreciation. The price appreciation has to do with when stock prices are moving up over the previous price on the floor. The dividend is the dividend paid out by company yearly. When they have made profit, they give out dividend. The bonus is some companies have a policy that every 2 years or every 3 years, we give a bonus. And so for you to be part of that bonus, your stock must be in the register. You wouldn't have sold. Because the moment you sell, you cannot benefit. It must still be within the register, the closure of the register. If after they had given bonus, you can sell, it means you have gotten the bonus and you are selling. So whatever thing you are selling, you are transferring to another person. And that person also will wait for another year for him or her to get the dividend or bonus. Now, the other question has to do with when a layman wants to come in, when can he come in? You can come in anytime, provided you know how much you want to bring in and how long you want to stay. If you want to stay for short term, you already know that what you are looking at is the price appreciation of that stock. If you are coming in for medium time, what you are looking for is price.
So who do they approach?
You approach a stockbroker.
You have access to a stockbroker.
There are stockbrokers all over the country. All you needed to do, if you are not too sure, you can access the exchange portal. You will see the list of stockbroking firms, and then you pick.
That are verified by government.
Not government, by the regulators.
By the regulators.
It is the regulator that verifies them, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
So once they are on their portal, on their website, you can access them for any information. But in the case of doubt, when you are not too sure, approach the exchange to say you want to invest and you have seen lists of stockbroking firms, but you want one that they can vouch for. Of course, because they are listed under them, they will say they can vouch for all of them.
Yes.
But there are some who their integrity is not at stake, meaning that their word, naturally, the word of every broker is their bond. Their word is their bond.
Yes.
And so you can get access to any of the brokers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yinka Adeaga.
It's my pleasure.
Now, we're not done with the conversation. This is just part A of the conversation. We're going to break, and in this break, we'll be bringing you Cashcraft to join us again in a moment. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. We still have Yinka Adeaga in the studio. We've moved away from the first line of conversation, and we hope you got some value for that conversation. Now, recent development has it that the MPC meeting met by the CBN, and 27.5% increase still maintained by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So, Mr. Yinka, what's the implication of this on Nigerian economy and Nigerian businesses and the investment climate?
Well, the implication of that is that there's relatively stability. You discover that in the time past, they have maintained this percentage. It means that there is relative stability in our economy, in our policy, in our political space. So it means for participants in that market space, in the money market space, they are doing what is needful and what is expected. So it's a case of you make profit, I make profit.
Okay.
So no one is losing. Even the investors, they are not losing, in the sense that the percentage that the interest rate on their borrowed money is not as high above what they can accommodate.
Okay.
So it's a win-win situation for them. But if there had been an adjustment, either up above the current one, then we can say something is wrong somewhere. It then means that the participants are making more over the other stakeholder, which are the borrowers. But when they maintain a level, it means they have looked at all the parameters of the economy, and they have still seen that with this threshold, some people will still make additional profit in their business, and it's not going to be a hard knot on them.
Okay.
So, well, for me, I think it's a good one.
All right.
That they have maintained that threshold.
Okay.
Because if they had gone above that, then we would have had problem. Although it would be better if it can come down.
Yes.
So that those who are into other businesses, small and medium scale businesses, although those ones may not be too affected because they don't go to borrow such money. The money they borrow is not more than 100,000, 200,000 for small and medium scale businesses. But for those who are in large business, of course, the turnover for them too is high. So the percentage, the interest rate percentage is okay. But it can still come down.
Yes.
And I am sure government is looking into that, and the CBN too are looking into that, because the CBN is, I would say, is a son or boy of the federal government. So they determine what happens. And they can only determine what happens when they look at what is happening in the economic space, for them to be able to say, this is it. And that is why the banks also will take advantage of that to say, okay, we are good with this.
Great.
All right, so in signing out, one more question from the stock market. Off camera, we're talking about how someone made certain amount of profit. So I would like to ask, in closing, what would you advise for Nigerians? Nigerians, we like quick money. That was what led to the CBEX scam.
Yeah.
Would you advise long-term or short-term profit? And when is exactly the time to, for those who want to do short term, when do you think is the right time to withdraw or sell?
Okay. If you are a high net worth individual, I don't need to advise you about that. You know what to do. Because for that, you know what you are after is your profitability. And your profitability can only come in the price appreciation of stocks. But if you are a low-end investor, what I will advise you is to go for the long term. Because in the long term, you make additional price, you make additional dividend, you make additional stake. That is, meaning that you have additional stake in the company. And so over time, you can also be a director. We have seen some investor who grew from nothing to becoming a director in a company. Once you have a 5%, 10% stake, you are automatically becoming a director of that company. So, and the only way they do that is to continue growing their stake. Once there is a right issue to say, okay, we are doing a right issue of this 2 for 1 or 1 for 3 or something, you go into it. When they are giving a bonus of 1 for 2 or 2 for 1 or 3 for 1, you go into it. For instance, there is a company in the past, they do 1 for 1 bonus, meaning that if you have 1 share, you have additional 1. So, but it affected them on the long run. It affected the company on the long run because everybody was now rushing to that company because they know that their investment is increasing.
It's increasing.
So at that point, when they saw what is happening, they had to come back to say, okay, we'll do 1 for 4. Meaning that if you have, 1 for 4. If you have 4 shares, you have additional 1 to add to it. So with that, they now stabilize their shareholding structure. Ordinarily, if they had gone with 1 for 1, they would have had more directors, and they cannot say no to them. Of course, the directors in the company, will also increase their stake. So it's better for a small earner, a small-scale person, to go into it for a long-term end of it, so that, give or take, you will be at advantage in whichever way. But then, you must know that the long term does not mean 1 year, 2 years. It starts from, by my own standing, it starts from 5 years. Because some companies give the bonus in every 2 or 3 years. So if you must be part of it, it means you must be there. Once you have sold, you can't be. Like some people will say, if I have not sold, I'm making this. You are not making anything. Until when you have sold, that you know that you have made this. Your stock price went from 10 naira to 15 naira, and you have not sold, and you are happy. No, it can crash the next day. So until when you have sold, and the money is with you, that you know, okay, I've made this. And so it's a case of buyers beware. And also the fact that the market is a market where everybody, no matter how small the amount you are bringing in, you can be a shareholder.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
And this is the right place for us to draw the curtain on the program. Mr. Yinka Adeaga, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. It's been very, very valuable, productive, and beneficial, not only to us, but also to our viewers out there. This is where we draw the curtain on Just Africa, focusing on Nigeria, capital market, and the stock exchange. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. Many thanks for watching.
And I am Olumide Sokoya. Enjoy the rest of your day.